Greetings. This is a follow-up to my DMT trip report that was a couple years ago that I put out there that got quite a few views. But boy, a lot has changed since then in my life, and I haven't taken it since. And that's the thing about psychedelics: a lot of people don't understand they are truly not addictive, and you kind of do them if you're an experienced person. You'll do them recreationally, where you'll take a little bit and you kind of enhance the colors or whatever at a concert. But as far as the deep exploratory trips, you kind of go through phases in your life where you need that. So if you know how to do that, then you can have like a shamanistic experience with the psychedelics. But going back to the DMT experience, I've had a lot of time to process what I saw, and I've thought about it a lot. And this in this day, there's a lot of talk about the simulation and all the UFOs and drones and all this nonsense. And I've listened to a lot of podcasts about DMT researchers since then, and big long one about the guy who was seeing code and reflected laser light. And what I was realizing and listening to that one, is that it was very similar to what I saw. And I wasn't seeing code, I was seeing faces. So, it's still quite distinct in my mind, and when I reflect back on the encounter that I had with the entity. So just real quick, I took 2.5 deep pulls on the DMT. I was alone, closed my eyes. When you close your eyes, that's when you can enter that realm, the space. You can't do it with your eyes open. If you do it with your eyes open, you're just kind of looking around in this whacked out drug thing, But if you close your eyes, you're opening up the inner mindscape. And so I found myself I was like looking in this room, and there was a entity at a bank of machines, and it was doing stuff, and it like turned around and looked at me, and it was like the sense that I had was like, it was like, whoa, what are you doing here? Surprise. And that's when I was kind of like, oh, thou shalt not, that all that, I remember that. And like I was like, in other words, I was declaring that I was not open to darkness or whatever. And that's when I had the sense that the thing walked up to me and hugged me, and poof, I was gone into another room. And that other room was like a spaceship, and I was looking out the window, and there was bright light to my right, and down over to the left, you could kind of look and you could see the body of the spaceship that we were traveling in. I was looking out the window at the spaceship like I'm a passenger on the thing. And it was like a superstructure, like coils. And if you looked closely at the coils, you could see human faces. And so I was like, okay, we're on a spaceship that's made of people. And I was like, the fuck is this all about? And then watching that podcast about the guy with looking at everything through the reflected laser, and he's talking about seeing the code in there, I'm realizing I think that's maybe what I saw. It was like a code. But what I saw, it seemed to be us. You know what I mean? It's really hard to explain, but it was a complicated thing. And since then, I got cancer, and I found myself like unable to slip back into the indoctrination chains. Like, in other words, what I think happened along the way of the DMT trip is they sort of like it broke the spell of politics and religion over me. Like, I was a very obsessed person with always posting nonsense about politics. I was angry and doing the social media thing, and I just come to realize, like, whoa, it's like this is all genetics. Like, there's and this is, I think, something I learned from the psychedelics, like that there is no value or a point in arguing about stuff. That's like the Matrix. They want us arguing about stuff that doesn't matter, that we can't control. And that these things, these opinions are ultimately based upon things we can't control, like our skin color. It's like genetics. And so why would you argue with somebody about, my skin color is better than yours? That's like the dumbest thing. Racism's so stupid. And politics is like racism. Whoa. Once I realized that, I was like, okay, I'm not wasting any more time on this. And I think that you get this sense that there's like layers of reality. Like maybe these creatures that are in that realm, nobody knows exactly. A lot of people see the same thing. People like, oh, well, they're harvesting our souls. Like, okay, maybe the Earth's a galactic drive-up restaurant. I don't know. We're galactic sardines, and they eat us when we die. Okay, fine, whatever. But I got the feeling that, like, you kind of process this, and you're like, okay, all this is fractals. That's kind of what you see in there. It's like a repeating kaleidoscope of colors and shapes and the code, if that's what it is. And then you start to think about, okay, star formation. Stars start from an accretion disk, and so that's the same all through the universe. And so is planets are failed stars. It's like, no, that's a repeating pattern throughout the universe. And then they say there's billions or trillions of habitable planets, just because that's sort of like what happens when stars form. There's a Goldilocks zone, or it's the right distance from the star, and yada yada, and all the chemicals are the same. So there's like this whole thing repeats throughout the universe. You know what else repeats? Politics, religion, and you start to go, okay, wait a minute, this is a weird cycle that we're in, where everything repeats itself over and over again. And then you start to kind of, okay, this is all natural, right? That's what it is. Like, you get this feeling like everything that we're experiencing and everything that humans do, including our pollution and our trash, is part of nature. And so, you get this kind of sense of calm that settles in when you realize, hey, first of all, there's something after we die, for sure. We don't know what it is, but being an atheist causes like a total anxiety thing. Like, oh my God, this is it, and we snuff out of existence. Talk about a panic attack. Like, fuck, one and done. No thanks. No, that's not what happens. And I don't know, not pretending to know, but definitely know that this is not the only existence that's out there. And so, time goes on, and there's all this talk about disclosure, and now it's like almost not even arguable that there was advanced technologies in the past. And they had different technology. Maybe they weren't doing cities, but they had different types of energy and stuff, and it all got wiped out. And so civilization is on a fractal pattern. It comes, it flows, it repeats, and a lot of the things are the same. And so 2 years later, I feel like what the aftermath of the couple heavy DMT trips I did is, like, it broke the indoctrination cycle. Like, I'm no longer open for psyops. Like, I don't believe anything in politics anymore. I recognize that it's all bullshit. It's all a game. Organized religion's much the same, but God is real. God is somehow above all this, unknowable, undefinable, omnipresent. And I guess the one thing I would, if I were going to say, hey, you should do this, you got to do it in the right mindset of quest. And then honestly, I think what has happened to me is that you start to realize that everything in your life, if you truly visualize having something, or set a goal, however you want to term it, if you master the power of visualization, that everything that you seriously ritualize visualizing comes into your life. They call it manifestation or whatever, but I started to look at my life and say, you know what, everything that I've ever truly put into my mind has come to pass. And so after I got cancer, I started thinking, well, did I manifest that? Because maybe I was like a depressed person and like thinking I wanted to die or whatever. And so the universe responds and boom. And now I feel like I'm healed of it, but I'm also healed of the psychic oppression or the mental oppression that had me feeling like, life wasn't worth living. Life's beautiful even when it hurts. And I don't think the shrooms taught me that. Maybe it's just experience. But, and then science talks about how it could be that there's, the aliens are all around us. We just can't see them because we see on a very narrow spectrum of light. We can only see, certain wavelengths. And we could be looking up at what we perceive to be a blue sky. It could be full of spaceships, whatever. That's just what they say. And one day, me and my wife were driving along the road. And I don't know if it was because we live near the ocean, but there was something. It was right at sunset where the sun, that moment where sun is slipping down below the horizon. And there was just the weirdest reflection of light. It was like just for a moment something was in front of the sun, casting rectangular slats of shadow, like on a massive scale. Like, I don't know if it was a boat that was passing in front of that little speck of the sun as it dipped below the horizon, but it caused this weird shadow effect throughout the sky. And I said, "No, are you seeing that?" She's like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Man, that's fucking weird." It's like, for a moment, you could almost just see between the dimensions that the light was fucking reflected. I don't know, man, how to explain it, but I think what happens is, trying to articulate, is that your psychic powers increase. So since taking the DMT a couple years ago, my ability, bullshit psychedelic, or psychic abilities that we all have, for example, when a phone rings, now 80% of the time I know if it's like a spam caller or if it's a person. Like, I just feel it. Okay, this is a person. Answer. Hello, yeah. Oh, hi, it's Albert. Or fuck, no, I'm not gonna take that. And sure enough, it goes voicemail. That's weird. And then, we've all had that thing where, you'd be thinking about somebody and then they call you. Like, your sense that when you can feel people thinking about you has increased. I can feel when people are directing their thoughts at me. And then the understanding of the cage, the mental cage that they've tried to build, where we're supposed to work, we're supposed to spend all our life working, being in debt, consuming, and then we die. That's not the way it's supposed to be. What we're supposed to do is we're supposed to create art. That's my opinion. That's not something the shrooms told me. I don't think that most of us are aware of our psychic abilities. And honestly, that's what it is. Like, the power of visualization is the most powerful thing that there is. This is what I've learned, is that you can't have it if you can't see it in your brain. And if you can see it in your brain, the universe will sort of rearrange itself. And this is like the core of the book, Think and Grow Rich. Part of the New Testament says, pray as if, have faith as if it's already real, that type of thing. It's the same message. It's that you have to get to such a state of mind of focus. And if you can get to that intense level of focus where you're seeing a reality that you want for yourself, the odds are very good that will be your reality. And real life examples of this are my 2 times climbing El Capitan, in the training leading up to that giant rock climb, it was mostly mental. Like, yeah, we did a little practicing of lowering our bags, but really was sitting there, seeing myself succeed, seeing myself pulling up the bags, seeing myself not turning back, seeing myself on the top, seeing myself fucking going for it. And, you know, I mean, when you have a 3,000 foot climb and you can remember individual holds from 28 years later, that only comes when you achieve like a shaman level of focus on what your task is. So my task at that time was rock climbing, and I manifested that, and I became a successful climber. And in my life, I've focused a lot of energy on music, and I've become successful at that. Not that I'm a rock star, but generally people will say, "Oh, Alex is pretty good at, you know, being a musician and whatever." And I wanted to be a writer, so I'm a writer, and I wanted to be a business owner, so I'm a business owner. But I've never set myself on my visual powers on being rich. It's always been just about providing for my family. And so what I'm doing is that I'm intentionally focusing my brain energy on the things that I want. And as I get older, I'm 57 years old now, I'm realizing that the distance between visualization and manifesting in your life gets shorter and shorter. Like, it used to take a long time, now it gets shorter. Why is that? Is it because that you kind of understand that that's how the universe works, or that you are able to intentionally focus your brain power on your goal? And then people say, well, if you can just visualize a pile of gold, why don't you have it? Well, because that's not really how it works. You have to you don't visualize $1 million. You visualize yourself in a $200,000 car, because if you have that $200,000 car, you have all the other things that would add up to $1 million before you could buy the $200,000 car. You don't visualize yourself with a vault full of gold bars. You visualize yourself in a great big giant house with a private plane and a swimming pool, because at that point you would be able to buy the gold. And that's kind of the essence of the book Think and Grow Rich. It's like, you gotta have a plan, you gotta have a goal, and then you got to actually trick your mind into thinking that it's already fucking real. And it's not tricking your mind, it's tricking the universe, because the book says your brain, or the universe, can't tell the difference between your subconscious and reality. So therefore, if your brain is like, I have $1 million, I have $1 million, I have $1 million. Well, eventually the universe starts to go, okay, this guy's got $1 million. You have to rearrange the universe to accommodate that, which sounds crazy, but that seems to be how things work. This is why, as you get older, you start to realize that you have accomplished all your goals. And the problem is oftentimes that you have either not set goals, or you've not done the step-by-step checklist to accomplish them, or you had no ideas for goals. So 2 years ago, that was the DMT trip. I'm still processing it. That's how wild it was. And it's not for kids or beginners. Like, you should have some experience with psychedelics before you do DMT. You should pray. You should be very open-minded. You should take it with intentionality to learn, and then try to cleanse yourself of expectations of what you will see, because chances are you'll see what you think you're going to see. But I just kind of went into it like this. Well, show me what's going on here. And that's why I got such a massive download, I think. And also, you have to take enough. You can't just like take a little bit of DMT, you're gonna feel kind of cool. No, you gotta take it, smoke it till you're actually like, whoa, your arm starts to melt, and then you're like, whoa, for about 5 minutes. And it's a little scary because it's so intense. But unless you're taking these massive doses, you're just not gonna get there. So DMT, vape pen, brand new package, 2 to 3 hits, that's all it's gonna take. The people that don't experience that are just not taking it. And same thing with the mushrooms. You go out, some friends at a concert, you meet a few stems, half a gram. But if you really want to have a profound experience, you've got to eat like a quarter ounce or even more. Chop that stuff up in a spice grinder, mix it with orange juice, chug it like 7 to 9 grams. Have the whole day set aside, and you will have the wildest. I mean, the things you see they're beautiful and they're just indescribable. The wild stuff you'll see in the sky and everywhere. The more you nature, the better it'll be. But anyway, I've been thinking a lot about that DMT trip. The trips that I took maybe, I don't know, 5. And I eventually threw the pen away because I didn't want, my kid or something accidentally finding it. But I just had no interest in taking it. Like I got what I needed out of it. And unlike alcohol, chocolate, tobacco, all these other things, psychedelics are an important thing. They're a key to a higher understanding if they're done properly and occasionally. And you start to realize that the matrix is the crushing of the psychic ability. And it sounds silly, but if you learn that the power of visualization is a psychic ability, like your ability to manifest things in this reality hinges upon your ability to see it. That's why they put fluoride in the water. That's why they're bombarding us with weaponized distraction machines like AI and internets and Instagrams and all that stuff's just designed to take our brain off focus. So if you want to unlock your mind, you got to go to where it's quiet. You got to create quiet space, call it creative space, whatever you're going to do. You're right, you're playing music, you're just meditating. But you free yourself of that mental clutter. And then you supercharge that with psychedelics, and you will unlock part of your mind that can never be locked up again. That's the wild thing. It's like once that door is open in your mind, there's no closing it. And I think this is why Paul McCartney discussed fear about taking LSD, and he's absolutely right, and because it shatters some concepts that you have about, like, you start to go, oh wow, we've been spoon-fed, we've been told, we've been indoctrinated that this is this, that, and the other thing are just the way it is, the way it's always been, and that's the illusion. That's man. And so I feel so lucky, to have had this breakthrough, to realize that the problem is me. If I don't have something in my life, it's because I'm not visualizing. That's what I learned. Cheers.